of those weird people who waves on a recording.
Yeah,
I
I'm
know. How is everyone?
so
Great.
good.
Amazing.
So good.
Trent looking great in seafoam green.
Yeah, excited for spring. I just hope the weather catches up too.
I wore a dress today and it was not a good idea. So then I went home and switched into jeans. Here we are. I know everyone is just dying to know what I'm wearing today.
Yes. I mean,
What are we talking about today, friends?
today is the day we are talking about what? Niches and superpowers?
Niches and superpowers. You are so right. I actually did prep a few notes for this today. Are you impressed?
So
We'll
impressed.
see how on note we go, you know. We're so
Yeah,
structured
We
in
do
absolutely.
our
tend to go off script every
conversation.
now and then.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, I don't know about you guys, like I was struggling with the uh the word niche, right? Like I think I'm curious what you think as a planner. I think that developing a niche, I automatically went to like stylistically, like Lynn Easton has a niche and
Hmm.
Marcy Bloom has a niche, but I'm curious, like, how do you think it affects other verticals within the industry? As a photographer, can you have a niche?
Hmm.
I think so.
I do.
I
Do a
think
lot
it
of
might be broader, like it
things.
gets even more and more broad, depending on what industry you're or category you're in within the
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
I think it's talked a lot about with photographers, though, especially when they're first starting out, niching, like you start off kind of doing everything. And then it's like, do I want to just do families? Do I want to do just weddings? Do I want to do those two only? Do I want to stay broad? I think that's the conversation. I've heard that conversation for years in the photography industry, but I
Yeah.
think we have a little bit of a different take on it. Don't you guys think with our superpower side?
Yeah, I think you're right. So let's start with why do we think people struggle with the idea of finding a niche?
I th-
Hmm.
oh, I think at the beginning, when you're building a business, it's hard to say no to money.
Heck yeah.
You're gonna just say yes to everything, even if you know it's not your
Funny coming
aesthetic.
from the guy that says yes to everything.
I'm getting better.
You
I
are
am
getting
getting
better.
better.
Um,
Yeah, no, that's fair because like in the beginning you're like, okay, if I charge $300 to do X, Y, and D, X, Y, and Z, that is like camp for my kids this summer. That is, so it's hard to say no. And then you end up being overworked, burnt out, and sort of jaded. Like there's a reason why so many, I'm going to use something I said the last episode, but there's a reason why so few of us are like old ladies in this industry, old men in this industry, is because we all are come out gung ho and we're like so excited to be everything to everyone. And if we don't niche down, whether that's niching by aesthetic or niching by offerings or budgets or whatever, then that's when we end up, I think, being just overworked, underpaid, jaded, and we're like, bye, see ya, never.
Yeah.
so gone are the days of just like looking at it from a very like literal perspective of like going down like and like specializing because I think that's what it kind of sometimes goes hand in hand is this if I'm am I specializing in one thing and is that what I'm supposed to do? I
Yeah.
think I think we can kind of change the narrative a little bit on what it
Yeah.
actually looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with like what what could a niche down or defining your niche within the industry look like besides the typical categories like I am luxury or I am destination, anything that comes to mind for you
Mm.
guys?
Well, I think you said it. Style aesthetic is, I mean, and I think that goes across the board in the wedding industry as a whole, right? We all have a style, we all have an aesthetic that we are gravitating.
Absolutely. I mean, I think like for photographers, you sort of have this right now, and I know you guys hate these descriptions, and that's maybe a whole other episode, but you have the sort of light, airy photographers versus the editorial direct flash photographers. I think in the planner realm, we have luxury or we have a specific aesthetic, somebody who is really preppy versus somebody who's really contemporary. I think in the makeup world, you can have somebody who is really glam, like our dear friend Joy, great at glam. And I think that's her niche versus you get somebody like a Lily in our world who's a little bit more of a chameleon when it comes to it or more natural. I think you could have niche by demographic. You know, your niche is Midwest, or it's East Coast, or it's Philadelphia, or it's Naples, you know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, I think in 2020, like 2021, there was a lot of niches surrounding type. Micro weddings
Yeah.
were
So
popping.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
were what everyone was wanting to do. I think a lot of ultra luxury photographers are multi-day events. Like I've seen that becoming a thing contractually. A lot of people are starting to write in that you have to book them for 2 or 3 days worth of events, which is interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
And it,
essentially, there's a lot of ways you can niche,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I mean, we like
which
your
goes against the whole word niche.
right? Like you could have your service model, it could be your values, it could be the location. Like, so I think because we are like always talking about being an open book, we should share what is our niche.
I'll
Do
go
I?
first.
You're gonna go first? Yay!
I'll go first.
Okay.
Okay,
You
so I
gotta
would
go first.
say my niche, as far as like, if I feel like maybe we can also have multiple niches, like based on those different categories.
Oh, 100%. I think you could.
So like which really plays into one bigger, but anyways, I would say I'm a local St. Louis photographer, wedding photographer. I don't do families. I don't do kids and little babies and all that. I'm weddings only. Bright, colorful, joyful, authentic moments. That's my bread and butter. You know what just popped in my head is your niche can also be SEO keywords. I'm like, oh wait, these sound familiar. St. Louis wedding photographer, bright, joyful, romantic, whatever. You like those, that can kind of be like, if you're struggling to figure out what your niche is, maybe it's like coincides with SEO. I don't know, that could be a whole other topic, but thought
Let's call Sarah. Sarah does SEO. Excuse us, is our niche one of our
also
SEO
our
words?
SEO.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think it can be anything, but for you, I think you hit the nail on the head. Trent, what do you think yours is?
This is hard because I hate putting myself in a category. I don't, I guess on my website, I do call myself a fine art photographer. I put that because I think fine art it's a little subjective, but it's a mix of classic tones, but you can also, add in a touch of what we call editorial or, a little more modern or a little more candid. Like it's a little bit of a mix of everything. Um, so I would say stylistically, my niche would be that. Um,
And
it's
Emily is not.
yeah. Experiential wise, I would say I know it's I don't know what like term to say, but I like to use the word comfortable because I want people to hire me because they're comfortable in their decisions and their style. Aren't doing something because someone told them to, or it's because it's a trend right now. They're like really true to themselves. They've had the same kind of classic, or they've shopped at the same stores from like high school through like now their 30s. I just think like owning yourself, that's typically who my is. I don't know what niche term that would be, but I would say 80% of my clients are in the comfortability. Does that even make sense? Does it make sense at all?
We'll
Yeah,
allow,
no, you know what? Yes, I'll allow it
I'll
because
allow
I
it.
think as somebody who's on the outsider, like we are fast friends but newer friends, and I've pitched you guys to clients before, and when I didn't know you and before you both went through a rebrand, I pitched you against each other often, and now I would say your clients are totally different clients. Like because I think you both have stepped into your niche, what your wedding superpower is. And those clients are just, they're two totally different clients. Like if I have a client who is like color and pattern and bright, and like that's an Emily client.
Mhm.
And then Trent and I just talked, I have a friend who works in like southern east coast area looking for a photographer who is like going to get along with I hate to like I don't hopefully this is okay to say, but like more Southern conservative client, very timeless, loves a monogram, put it on everything. Not that Emily wouldn't do great in that realm, but that's a Trent client. Like that is, absolutely.
I'll come second shoot for you, Trent. Heck
For
yeah,
sure.
I'll be the backup. But like
Yeah,
that's just, like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. What I think you're both great at and is a niche that is the service to your couple and to the planners that you guys work with on a wedding day. And I think that's the same, like my niche. There's a lot of different ways that I think I could go about this, but I think it's full service, high touch. It's going to be somebody who like is looking for a really strong blend of systems, emotional intelligence, and relationship driven service. And then tense. Like we want that to be our niche, whether it is I shouldn't say that, not tense, but full transformation. Like
Yeah,
give me a 10,000 square foot ballroom or a 10,000 square foot tent and let me go ham. That's what I want. I want somebody who cares about the carpet on the floor just as much as they care about the glassware used to serve a signature drink and the accessory and the accoutrement and all of that. Those are my people.
Yeah. And I think that's something that I've seen like in the past 3, 4 years that we've known each other is you have like grown into where I love that your niche is transformative, but it's not a specific style because your clients are eclectic or they are very classic, or you can take any of that and give them exactly what they want. Because you do want to transform something, a space, but you want to do it different and you want to do it specific to your clients.
And then find the vendors that match that style. Like I think that's your superpower.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. I do think I am going to toot my horn for a second, but I think when a client listens and follows with what we recommend, we're really good about building out a vendor team that's perfect for them.
And I think that is such an underrated superpower that more people, like, if we could get people to get that,
Yeah.
then like it would just like skyrocket the level of experience that the clients would have. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Like hands down, if you can find the right vendor team, period, done.
Absolutely. And I think that early in my career, I made a lot of mistakes of like, oh, I have to work with so and so, Susie Smith Photography. She's the best of the best of the best. So I would pitch her for every single client until I would get one to bite. And now I've learned that like that Susie Smith Photography might need to sit in my back pocket for a little while until I find the right client, and then that sell of her photography or his photography or whatever it is going to be much.
I can tell you when I look back at like my best weddings, my favorite weddings, and my favorite clients that could, I guess, be considered my ideal clients, every time it's a planner that knew I would be a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every time. Hands down. Like across the board, first from style to personality to everything. My favorite clients and my favorite weddings go directly back to a planner that got it and like played matchmaker.
Yeah. And I will say, oh, no, you can go. Well,
I was just going to kind of ask a question, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
Well, I was going to say, like, now in the booking process, now that I am working with so many more more planners, it used to be very much I wanted to get on a face-to-face call with a client or a meeting in person because I knew if it was the right fit, then we would connect instantly on that. Yeah. Now that I'm working with more and more planners, sometimes they're cutting that out and they're just saying, this is who we think you should work with, whether it be me or someone else, so that that interaction is sometimes cut. I sometimes do not talk to a client before they book me. I used to really dislike that because I'm thinking, goodness, are we a good fit? Do we know? But then I realized this planner has taken the time to look at my work, to get to know me. So they're just kind of taking that portion out for me. It's saving me an hour conversation with a client. But then we kind of build a relationship with an engagement session or talking through emails to plan things out. So that's like a fun transitional thing that I thought I didn't like, but now I do like because I figured out how that worked.
So I'm curious, do you feel like a niche could be how you work rather than what you offer? Because I think, Trent, that's a little bit of what you're saying is now you have a different process and the people who are your niche the planners that are coming to you could be a little bit because of your like how you're servicing their clients.
Absolutely.
I think that is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
It's not just like we can talk about aesthetics all day, and that's the easy ones to pick. Like you can see that outwardly, right? But when we're
Yeah.
talking about luxury, I mean, our last episode we talked about the definition of luxury, and it comes down to an experience. And our niche also be part of that, like how we do things. I say yes.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm curious if any examples come to mind of like a planner, photographer, a hair and makeup artist, or caterer standing out, not necessarily because of what they do, but how they do it. If anything comes to mind, I think for me, like the first thing that popped off in my head is actually on the catering side of things, because how a caterer treats their vendor team, how they service the meal, how they can get meal selections out to the guests without doing that sort of dreaded meal auction at the table. Who ordered the chicken 6 months ago when you filled out your RSVP and all of those things? I think to me, that's not necessarily them being a niche because they're a caterer, but it's because of how they provide the type of service that they provide and how they will do things. So, the caterer that we use more often than not, if we're in a tough situation, we're in the middle of nowhere in a tent with very little infrastructure, they're our go-to because I know that they're going to be able to do what they do best in those situations. I'm curious if you guys have any examples of more the how.
Would say any vendor that I work with that you visibly or like you feel taken care of. I think that's what it comes down to for me, is that's the experience, right? Where you feel like you're not an afterthought, you're not part of the help, you're not like when we're on a team together and we take care of each other. That's where I feel like that kind of sets you apart. You know what I mean? Like for example, like your point of the catering, like when a caterer is like cares about feeding the vendors too, and like in a way that makes sense, and that they paid attention to the timeline and they're not fighting the timeline on like, yeah, I can make that, and like saying I can make that happen because I know that that's important that they get a meal. Like, and I'm sure some caterer will come at me and be like, yeah, but these timelines suck and it doesn't make sense or whatever. There's threads everywhere about that fight. But when you can feel taken care of, even as a vendor, I think that is leaps and bounds ahead of just the standard of, showing up and doing your job.
Yeah. And I even think I'm going to throw this example out just because Emily and I have seen both sides of each other work. I have second shot for her. She's second shot with me. And our approach to clients, while very similar, it's like the little bitty things. Emily is so fast. I don't know. Maybe it's all the Diet Coke, but she is so fast, like with portraits and like really keeping her couples engaged for like a solid, not like without skipping a beat for 5 minutes and getting 100 different portrait shots, poses, walking, different frames, different things like that. And although I feel like our approach to our clients are similar, I am much, I guess I would say slower, and less, go, go, go. But even though our clients might describe us as feeling the same, it's like weird how she can use her energy and like keep her clients upbeat. My approach is a little more calm, but then the end result, they kind of describe us sometimes as being similar.
I will say I've been trying to lean into that more lately. Like, listen, when you work with me, I'm going to get in and out of those pictures. Nobody wants to be out in the 100-degree weather for 3 hours. Like, and I'm your girl for that. Like, I don't want to be out there for 3 hours either. Like, we're going to get it. And we're going to get the same amount of pictures we would have if we were out there for 3 hours.
Exactly.
And I'm going to talk that fast.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
No, I think that like that is the how with like as a planner, like, okay, I know I have a couple who won't do a first look and has a 5 o'clock ceremony. I need a photographer who can fire through these things. So there's where the how of referring a photographer like Emily, or what a hair and makeup schedule that's tight or something along those lines, those are going to become hugely important. So kind of switching gears a little bit about these niche is we talk a lot about what superpower do you have? And I'm curious, do you guys feel like your superpower is your niche, or is it something that's completely different?
I would say I'm transitioning into saying yes, that it is becoming my niche. Only because I'm going through a copywriting process right now with ID Action, and the conversations that I've had with them. Oh,
Sorry.
that's how you really feel, Kate. I'm just kidding. The conversations I've been having with them have really like made me deep dive into my business and who Emily Broadbent Photography is and like what my brand as I like me is. And I would say that when I started off, it was more about like aesthetics. I was like, I'm a light and airy photographer. I'm, like I was trying to um fit what I thought everybody wanted, you know what I mean? And now I'm switching it to more like, okay, I'm more experienced now. I know what works, what doesn't work, who I am more as a photographer, and like what does that look like? And so I would say that I am niching down more on the how, because I feel like that's my way to bring that luxury experience, whether it's to a full-on luxury client or whether it's more of like the mid-tier or whatever client. Like my version of luxury is how I can provide an experience and what does that look like.
Well, and I think you're going to provide a luxury experience to your client no matter if they're a luxury wedding or not, right? Like that's what you're going to get from Emily Broadbent Photography or Trump Brogland Photography. Like one of my biggest challenges in the planner is, as a planner, is the amount of overhead that I have. Like I need a certain revenue on each event. And if I don't hit that, that client is still getting just as great of service as somebody who is meeting my minimum, which isn't fair to my clients, but they're still getting whoopsie daisies. Sorry, friends, calendar reminder. They're still getting that level of service. And so it's become increasingly hard to like take some of these smaller events because they're still getting the Kate and Co experience,
It's hard to dial it back. I mean, like we are who we are, right? We're in a service industry. Like we can only like.
And one thing about me is I'm going to overservice my clients no matter what they sign up for. I was on the phone for 2 hours last night, Sunday night, on today's Monday. I don't know when this will release, but we're recording this on a Monday with a client talking about their budget. And guess what? I had also talked to them about it on Friday. Like it was just a repeat of the same thing that we already talked about, but it made them comfortable to get on the phone with mom and dad and have the conversation again. I can't do that, to our point with last episodes, for 40 couples, but I can do it, now. So I think my superpower and my niche maybe are still a little bit different from the planner side of things, because I talked a lot about like the aesthetics and like what we do, but I guess you could say like our systems are one of our superpowers. I don't know. I truly don't know the answer to this question that we wrote for ourselves.
But that's the kind of the point
I
of these
do think
episodes,
mine
right?
is my niche. My superpower is my niche.
Yeah.
Just because I've kind of seen the effects of
Yeah.
what I tried to do over like several years. So
Yeah.
I would definitely say like the relationship building part of my business is why my business exists and why it is expanded and growing. And that's on a
That's so true.
client side and a vendor side. I was talking to someone, it's been a couple of weeks ago, but I just remember whenever I came into St. Louis, I wanted to know people in the industry. It was really, really hard to get to know people. So I worked long time. Long story short, it's how Emily and I connected at a styled shoot. We worked with vendors. We made our own styled shoots. And the other week I had, I don't know, probably 4 different events on the calendar that it was more of a social thing, but it was all these people that I had been building relationships for years. And it was one of those things. I was exhausted. I've had photo shoots. I've started wedding season. And I said, I'm not going to say no to these people because they said yes to me all those years. So it's all about like
struggle with this.
keeping that going.
You're much better about it than I am. Like the introvert in me, like the person with social anxiety, really comes out. And like I think right now I'm just in a season of like, with Kimmy's just getting back from maternity leave, Eli just finished her wedding, like we've just been in such a season of like overworked that
Yeah.
survival. Yeah. I kind of want to, if it's okay to kind of pivot the conversation a little bit, let's talk about. So, we put together a quiz. I'm so excited to share it with everyone where they can answer a series of questions and really try to hone in on what their superpower is going to be. What is their wedding superpower? And I think this is just so great, whether you're, tenured and like been in doing this for 16 years or somebody who's 3 years in. So, let's kind of talk about the superpowers that we developed and what makes them each unique. So,
What, 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
listen, yeah, okay. So the first is the storyteller. Emily, you want to tell us about somebody who is a storyteller?
Okay, so a storyteller is magnetic to clients. Okay, so you have a signature vibe, thankful, reflective, emotional, or maybe have more of elopements with depth, writing focused content, experience based branding. And then maybe you lean into more of the thoughtful content and journaling and blogging.
Yeah.
And things like that. So
I think a storyteller, whether you're a planner, you're a photographer, you're a hairstylist, you're the caterer, you're telling the story about how, on your blog, in your journal, about how the client selected their meal, or why you prepared their hair and makeup lookbook a certain way, or why you captured the content a particular
lot of meaning and depth.
Right.
In
so
your
I think
process. Yeah.
a storyteller, their clients want to read all of that information and they want to share all of that information. Trent, why don't you tell us, this is
This is him.
you're the king of this, relationship builder, somebody who is superpowers building relationships. Tell us about that person.
Yeah.
Which is also his superpower, by the way.
Truly is his superpower.
Yeah. So I think being warm and supportive and intuitive, whether it be for vendors or your clients, is very signature vibe there. High touch planning, family focused events, long term client retention. I think this goes to show at many of my weddings, there are likely 2 or 3 couples who I've also photographed their weddings.
Yes.
So that's like after a while, you kind of see that whenever you become referral based when you're building those relationships. And then your business shift, you focus on referrals, your networking, and small relationship driven events. So, like I said earlier, still supporting these people that I met years ago and that supported me to get me here. You don't leave those people unnoticed.
Yeah. I think a relationship builder probably gets a lot of clients who, on that initial inquiry, are talking about bringing together their family and friends and how important it is, and like the seating of it and where people are, who they're talking to, and things like that.
And they may also really care about the relationship they have with their vendors.
Yeah, they probably want to spend more time with their vendors, or Trent, as you kind of mentioned on an earlier episode, like they almost become the go-to for things that maybe aren't related to their specific niche, but it's asking the hair and makeup artists like, hey, do you have a photographer you love, or a photographer, hey, do you have a planner that you love? So I think that's, if you're constantly becoming the go-to for your couples, then you're probably have, relationship building as one of your superpowers. For the next one we categorized was a visionary. So I think this is someone who is bold, who is driven by aesthetics, who loves things that are editorial. So these are design-led weddings. They are fashion-forward clients. They are people who want creative direction. So a lot of these are my clients. This is somebody who is looking at the creative and wants to know every little detail about how we got there. So I think, a way that this person's going to shift their business is really to package up their creativity to a premium. So for me, the way that this looks is I charge separately from my percentage for design and day of, because I do value myself as a designer where some other planners may not. They might be more into the planning side of things. So that's one way I do it. Emily, you want to talk to us about Systems Pro? That's our next
Sure do. I love a good system. Okay, so this is a business owner, and as we're talking about this, like, you guys know, like, if you guys looked at or like gone deep into love languages, because this very much is like the superpower version of love languages because like while like you tend to like for a love language, right, you tend to show love the way you receive love sometimes, and this is like you tend to be this way and then attract those same clients in a lot of ways. Okay, so for a systems pro superpower, you're probably calm, structured, trustworthy, and then you're probably attracting that type of client too, or a client that is that or values that, wants you. um you're going to have luxury coordination and team management and multi-day timelines. Like that is not a big deal for you. Like that comes naturally, I would say. And then you're going to sell your process as part of the luxury, which I think that we've kind of talked about that. Like that's something that we're trying to do, right? Is that the process is part of it. And so like the tools and the templates and the intensives that you maybe created to help the process be easier or more efficient or whatever that looks like. But the system side of things is really gets you going.
Yeah.
I love a good system.
Yeah. And then I think the last is an innovator. Trent, you want to take it or you want me to take it?
You can go ahead and take it.
Okay. So I think that this is somebody whose brand is super flexible. They're not really rigid. They are agile. They are unconventional. So I think this person might focus on destination elopements. Like this is the person who's like hiking a mountain for a elopement, you know, at 3 a.m. so they get the sunrise, like, which is not me.
Not me.
Not me, but there are the people out there. These are people who love to build days around content, who are great at last minute things, like pulling out magic no matter what is thrown their way. So I think that this person can embrace their adaptability with different hybrid offerings or service sprints. So I think like capitalizing on those last minute bookings or those unconventional things would be really important for this person. So what would we say?
I just have to say, these are really good. I know we came up with these, but these are really good.
I mean,
good job, guys.
Yes, go team. Okay.
Team.
What would we say to somebody who doesn't know what their niche is?
Take our quiz.
Actually, I have a good thought. So I kind of struggled with this to like figure out why I do what I do. So I've been listening to a lot of podcasts because I've been at my computer for months, it feels like, while we're not in wedding season. But some of the things I've been hearing stories of people, big names in the wedding industry, they kind of talk about the start of their life. Their parents did this. They remember like their mom always hosted and like did these things. And it was that brought them to this. So I would suggest instead of just being like thinking of, oh, I picked up my camera one day, I liked shooting weddings. It's like go a little deeper to yourself, go back in time. Maybe it doesn't necessarily go to your exact business, but maybe there were things that you remember in your life that didn't stick out to you until now when you remember them. But I think that that's kind of part of your story and like building and coming up with what your actual niche
So
is.
Trent is a storyteller and a relationship builder. That's who he is. Because I'm over here, I'm like, I picked up my camera one day and I wanted to shoot weddings.
But
So,
I promise you, if
and I
you
really
go
like money.
if you go back more, you will be like, oh, that kind of ties in. That makes sense.
Okay, I will do that, Trent, but it'll be really hard. Okay, it's gonna be really
Right.
hard.
Try it.
So if you're
I
like,
figured out a lot of things.
take our quiz and maybe that'll help.
Yeah, I think that like I didn't realize some of my superpowers until somebody else told me what they were.
Yes.
You know, so I think that this is meant to be a jumping off point. I think that by taking the quiz, you will find out if you're a relationship builder, a dreamer, a systems expert, authentic storyteller, or an event innovator. And I think that is, I know we try to always end these episodes with actionable takeaway. So that is today's actionable takeaway, unless anyone else has.
Take the quiz and then ask somebody else what they think. Somebody you know, like a trusted like industry friend that knows you enough to like be able to be like, well, I think like, yes, that totally makes sense. Or, oh, I think that this also could be you. Like,
Yeah.
To your point, Kate, I think it's really helpful to have other people's thoughts and like.
Yeah, I think so too. Just don't ask too many people. You know, you don't need
Right,
everyone's.
right. Like, I mean, like a trusted, like
Brittany,
I
you
would
can.
ask Trent or
And
Kate.
no.
Like, those
Yeah.
are the people I would ask.
Yeah.
I wouldn't post
Okay.
it on Instagram.
I would say, Emily, you just another actual takeaway. You just read a book. I know you're a little behind the rest of the industry, but what book did you just read?
I just read Unreasonable Hospitality. Highly recommend it. So good. Kate is the one that told me to read it like a year ago. I finally did. Finally had the time on the beach. It's really an easy read. I actually read it really quick, but it was fantastic.
I just reached out to them to get his fee just to see, like, could he come to Landlocked Luxury and speak for us? I'm curious what it's like. They won't even give me a starting range without jumping on the phone with me. So I'm like,
That's a lot.
yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe they'll catch the vision.
Maybe.
Maybe it's worth it.
Yeah, maybe. When in our free time, we'll jump on the phone with Will Guidera's people. Shout out Will Guidera. Everybody read his book and please come speak at our conference. Trent, any actionable takeaway on your end outside of take the le quiz?
No, I think once you narrow down what your niche is, maybe just like write down some unique things about yourself that kind of fit within that niche and like
Yeah.
really hone into those.
Yeah. I think my actionable takeaway for today is something that we do periodically on our Landlocked Luxury Instagram account, but I'm going to challenge everyone listening to do it today, is to go write a Google review for someone that you worked with.
Love that.
So I think that is such a easy thing to do. It is free to do, but if you've worked with a great wedding vendor, writing one, because I, as a planner, tell people to not only look for reviews from past couples, but see if you can suss out the reviews from other wedding professionals, because we see what really happens behind the scenes. So writing a review for a fellow planner is an actionable thing that, a fellow wedding professional, doesn't have to be a planner, is something actionable you can do today.
And it just makes your day. Someone's day. You'll make someone's day.
Yeah.
Truly. Absolutely. All right, friends. Well, we went over. Our goal is always 20 minutes and we never actually do it. So maybe this
we
is
talk too much.
maybe this is just a 30-minute platform. I don't know.
Whatever.
But also, it kind of is a telling tale of what Landlocked Luxury is. You think you're getting this, and then you're gonna get this.
All right, my dears. Everybody have a great week and we'll be back soon.
Bye.
Bye.